Yo, what is up everybody? Chris here from Fake Sports News, back at it again with another video. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a recap of what happened during today's matches. There were 16 matches, so I'm not promising to make this short and sweet because there will be nothing short or sweet about this. This is just really interesting. We had great matches, and as you guys can see, a lot happened. So without further ado, let's hop into the first series that was recorded. So we'll go in order. Optic Texas taking on the Florida Mutineers. You guys know I was expecting Optic Texas to walk away from the series with a W. They beat their boogeyman, Florida Mutineers. And honestly, Vico and Major Maniac just had a rough series, but Havoc had his best series of the season thus far, and Shotzi had his best series of the season that I can recall thus far, because he's just been having a little bit of a rough season so far. Everybody on Optic Texas went positive with the exception of Scump, which is kind of a surprise considering he's been the best player on the team throughout the season thus far. But let's look at the matches, or excuse me, the maps to see how things went down. Optic Texas took the Greenberg Hotel 191, excuse me. Mercado went 6-5 in favor of the Mutineers. Let's do a quick check to see how it went down. So Dashy was the man of the match on the Optic side, and Havoc, geez, 15-7, wow. And then Game 3 Control on Hotel was a 3-2 in favor of the Mutineers. They clutched up in the end. I was able to see this. I was working all day today, so I didn't get to necessarily check out all the matches, but I got to check out enough. And Havoc was having. Wow. Okay, and Shotzi and Illy were the only two on Optic who had a really strong performance in the map 3, but close with no cigar. Then Optic rebounded in the map 4 on Mercado, and they won it 250-212. And Shotzi was a standout performer for the Optic side. Brack and Havoc were the standout performers for the Mutineer side, and Vico really dragged them down a little bit with a .59, so that's a little bit rough for them. And then Embassy S&D went 6-5 in favor of Optic. It went to round 11. Illy dropped a 2 KD. He absolutely popped off and saved the team in this last map. Brack was the only one who was shooting back on the Mutineers, interestingly enough, with 11-7. So really good performance for Optic, really good turnaround series, even though they lost 2 and 3. They almost got Neslo'd, but they didn't. So they survived to see another day. They will face Mutineers again today. So we'll see how that goes. Looking at our LAG versus Subliner series, looks like LAG wasn't shooting back. 0.82 for RCs, 0.61 NEP, 0.76 for Spart, and Hook had a 0.56. Wow. Hydra had a 1.46, Kismet had a 1.39, Priest had a 1.59, and Skies had a 1.42. Wow, Subliners just destroyed them. Wow, 250-82 on the Mercado Hardpoint map 1, 6-4 on Hotel. Wow, LAG is a really strong surge team, as you guys know, so this is surprising. And then a hot 3-0 on Fortress. Wow, the Subliners really came into play today. Skies went 18-7, Hydra went 19-9. Wow, Kismet went 16-10, Priest at 11-8. I mean, Priest has been frying. He's been frying ever since he joined this New York team, and honestly, it's great to see him get so comfortable. Priest is one of the only pros that I've ever been able to talk to. When he first joined Faze, I talked to him for a long time at CWL Atlanta, and he was one of the nicest pros I've ever met. So I'm always happy to see him win. Looking at our next series, we have Minnesota Rokkr 3-0 Decimate, which is an amateur team. This is Mock, Hollow, and Ulysses and Two Reel's team. So they just had a rough series. Two Reel had a 0.68, Ulysses 0.98, Hollow 0.52, and Mock a 0.55. Rough series for these guys, but a great showing for the Minnesota Rokkr, who are the #1 seed in the CDL overall at the current moment. So not really anything to feel bad about if you're Decimate. It's just a unlucky draw, if we'll call it that. Attached with a 1.72 is crazy, but we'll leave that. Pretty dominant from the Rokkr across the board, 250-130 in the hard point, 6-2 on a CeeLo, and 3-0 on a CeeLo control. So not even really going to go too far in depth with these stats. Rokkr just fried. Looking at our next series, we had Toronto Ultra taking on Poyodrome. I think it's Poyodrome because they're a Spanish team, and that would make sense. Pollo, not Polo, as people are saying, or Paulo, whatever. So looking at the stats, Ultra really turned it up the second half of this series. As you guys can see, they lost game 1 by 5 seconds. Wow, that's tough. So it was just a close hard point. It came down to the last rotation, clearly last hill. Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch this series, but wow. And then around 11 in S&D, wow, that's insane. So yeah, Poyodrome, they were just tucking. That's all that can be said in the first half of the series. Look at the stats. not going to go too crazy with the stats because we still have another 13 or 12 series to work through after this. The control is a 3-2 in favor of the Ultra. Great performances from Standy and Scrappy, that duo that I said to keep your eyes on. Remember, a few weeks ago I said keep your eyes on these two because I feel like Toronto could be the breakout team, best team in the game. I mean, the potential is definitely there. Map 4 Hardpoint on Mercado was a smoke show, 250-93, 100-point clubbed. And then Fortress S&D was a 6-1 in favor of the Ultra. So they just got their get back. They got caught slipping the first two maps. Some 50-50s didn't go their way clearly, and that's that. Ultra looks to be probably, if not one of the best team in this game. Looking at the LA Guerillas Academy series versus Atlanta Faze, Slasher had a rough series, ironically. I felt like he was the most impactful player for Faze, but I guess that's not what, you know, the stats say. Sally had a 1.65. Jeez Louise. Plus 33 is insane. So looking at it, LAG took map 1, 250-214 on Embassy. Faze got their get back, 6-2 on Mercado. And Guerillas Academy is actually a pretty strong search team, so this 6-2 is a really encouraging showing for Faze, considering S&D has been their weakest game mode for the last few weeks. Control was really dominant for Faze. They won 3-0. The hard point, I don't know what happened on Mercado, but LAG, they were turned up in hardpoint today, so that theme will definitely persist throughout the rest of the video. Everybody on Faze was getting tucked with the exception of Simp. Simp really turned things around finally for the first time this season, and he looks like Simp of old, so that's really encouraging for the Faze side. And then in the S&D on Embassy, it was a smoke show. Cell had a 2.67, Simp had a 2.0, Abizi had a 2.5, and Slasher, I mean, he was doing his thing, so can't get mad at that. Joe Deceives 1-6, Assault 6-6, Exceed 3-6, and Diamond Con 4-7. So just a rough last map for the LAG Academy boys, but they get another chance to go at it again tomorrow, so we'll see how that turns out. Looking at our next series, we had Vegas Legion taking on the Los Angeles Thieves, and actually these series were happening at the same time, but I'm just going in order as you guys know. So looking at the series, LAT, they just played well on the second half of the series. Paris went up 2-0. They won Hydro, and they won Fortress, which I'm guessing are their stronger maps in the series. Look at the hotel scoreline. And look at the stats, man. Proloot with a 1.4. Everybody was saying, Proloot trash, Optic season buff. I mean, dude did pretty well map 1. I definitely saw him get tucked in one of the later series, so, you know, up and down. 15-6 from TJ is crazy. Oh my gosh. 6-5 for the Legion in map 2. The control on El Asilo went 3-1 in favor of the LA Thieves. And the standout performers were Draza and Envoy. That's who you really want to be making the biggest impact on the map. Octane and Kenny are going to do their thing. I guess not in this map, Octane. Sheesh, 0.68, but still won. Who cares? And then looking at the map 4, this was really close. I didn't watch this series. I was actually, like I said before, working at the time, so I didn't really get to see this one. But it looks like it was a really close series the entire way through, which is what I expected. And if you guys watched yesterday's video, you know I said to circle this game because I felt like it had a lot of upset potential, and Paris is going to play the Thieves very tight. So this is a great showing for the Thieves, 250-228 on Embassy. And then it looks like the Vegas Legion just ran out of gas when they got to the Game 5 S&D because it was a 6-1. That's a smoke show. Envoy went 11-2. Yeah, all right, let's move on to the next series. The London Royal Ravens got 3-0'd by the Seattle Surge, and not really going to go too far into this. The Ravens were just, they choked a lot. They had full streaks on map 1. They choked that advantage. Map 2, they had advantage, they choked it. Map 3, they also had advantage, they choked it. So just a rough series from the Ravens. A lot of small things were killing them, and I expect them to improve on that when we see them next. So looking at the stats, Asim was the only player that did well on the London side with, you know, wide margin. Zero was just about even. Nasty was even. Paul X had a, not really a rough series. I mean, he was -9, so not insane numbers, but, you know, not good enough to get the win. And then Civ and Pred were the only two on Seattle to go positive. Surprise, surprise. They've been carrying the team this season thus far, so no real surprise there. Civ and Pred, of course, only two positive on map 1. Map 2, the only player positive was Mac. Wow, Mac was the S&D star today. That's interesting. He's typically not known for his S&D, so this is really good to see for Mac. Happy to see it turned around. He was a better S&D player in MW, but I guess just in the Pro League now as he's finding his footing, it's not really his game mode of choice. Looking at the control, this was not really close at all. So Pred and Accuracy actually were the duo this map. Yeah, interesting series nonetheless. London, their struggles continue. And then this was the upset of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So later on in the day, we did find out that Big Wake is apparently sick. So prayers go out to Wake. Excuse me. I hope he gets better soon. Unfortunate to see that he got sick, considering the fact that his team was seen by many to be one of the top 5 teams. I had them in the top 4 personally, just based on their overall performance. The LAG win, yeah. But I still thought Boston, just based on their strength of schedule, was one of the better teams in this game going into this event. And they were one of my favorites to potentially walk away with it. They were also first seed in their group, so there's that. I mean, this was not an expected outcome. Honestly, it was just a rough series for the entirety of the breach from the looks of the scorelines. Elevate, they're a really good team. It's, of course, 3 former pros. Denz was a pro at one point, actually, so 4 former pros. Yeah, I mean, they just came to play, and these guys have all been professionals. Harry and Gizmo, of course, they were pros last year on the London Royal Ravens. Harry was a sub, but he did get to play for the Ravens on land and online for a while. Vortex has always been a top-tier EU player, and Denz has always been the top player. So these guys are definitely not players to underestimate at all, and obviously they beat a pro team, so they're here to play. Game 1, Fortress went 250-206 in favor of Elevate. Then the Breach got back and evened it up 1-1 on Fortress map 2 with a 6-2 scoreline. Wake went 8-4 and Nero went 2.5. They were the top performers. In the map 3 Control, Breach won that as well, with strong performances from Nero with a 1.7, wow, and Methods with a 1.23. And then on Hydro, of course, everybody on the Elevate side, did their part. Gizmo had the standout performance for the Elevate side with a 1.2, and Vivid was the man of the match for the Boston Breach here with a 1.15. In our last map on Hotel, we, of course, it came down to a 3v2, I believe. Am I thinking the wrong series? I think Boston had a 3v2 advantage in Kitchen. Yes, they did. And then Gizmo popped a 2-piece in Kitchen, and that was that. So great performance from Elevate. They really iced up. Gizmo was the man of the match, absolutely, no question. He was the only player on Elevate to go positive, and I guess those 2 kills are what actually brought him positive. Interesting enough. So Gizmo was the man of the match, of course. Game 5, series on the line against a pro team. As an amateur, he drops 13-9 to send his team to the qualification stage against, we'll check it out in a second. Looking at our next series that happened simultaneously, we had the Florida Mutineers taking on Poyodrome, and this was an elimination match, so loser goes home. And the Florida Mutineers, they made pretty light work of Poyodrome. The first map, they got caught. Brack was the only player on Mutineers who really did well, and then Super and Lucky on the Poyodrome side went crazy. Super was 28-16, and Lucky was 29-21. So they were just the duo there, and the Mutineers were playing off the back foot, evidently. Looking at the Game 2 S&D, the stats weren't recorded for this here on Breaking Point. Not sure what that is, but they'll be here eventually. Mutineers clearly dominated, and yeah, that's the story there. I wasn't able to watch this series as well. I was at work at the time. So in the map 3, Control, Mutineers dominated this as well, 3-1 in their favor. Major Maniac and Vico were the men of this map, and Lucky was the only man of the map for the Poyodrome side. And then the Mutineers were able to close things out on Fortress with a 250-184 scoreline, behind a really strong performance from Cult Havoc and a super strong performance from Major Maniac. Everybody on Florida did their thing, but those 2 guys both dropped 30+ kills, and their KDs were absolutely insane. Wow, this is rough. The Poyodrome guys, they were getting tucked, so that's unfortunate, but it happens on Fortress sometimes if you get unfavorable spawns. I did see that they were spawning in the back by gate, so that's really tough. And, you know, they got trapped at P3. So if you get trapped at P3 in that spawn trap, you can definitely get put in the blender and just keep dying. And that's pretty much what happened to Poyodrome in the first rotation. And it was enough for LAG, Florida, to just keep chaining hard points. Looking at our next series, we had the New York Subliners 3-0ing the Minnesota Rokkr. You guys know I was expecting the Rokkr to make it out of this pool with the top seed, as most of us were, right? They are currently 3-1 in the Pro League. Well, not 3-2, but in regular play they went 3-1. So they won 75% of their series. They were definitely favored to win this series, but we thought it would be close, most of us. It was not close. Skies and Priesta saw to it not being close at all. That AR duo has been absolutely having today. So going into tomorrow's series, that bodes very, very well for the New York Subliners. I think they will continue that momentum. As Kismet said in the interview, they are a team that divvies up all of their responsibility very evenly. So 25% is placed on all the players, and everybody has an equal voice on the team. No one is the IGL, he said, and they just kind of play together and play as one. They play formless Call of Duty, which you guys know. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I'm a big-time advocate for formless Call of Duty. No roles, just vibes, good teamwork, and good strats. So it worked out. They beat the Rokkr 250 to 166 on Fortress. Everybody on Rokkr went negative, and everybody on Subliners went positive, with the exception of Hydra, who marginally went positive, which is crazy, by 1 kill. Hydra actually had the lowest KD on the team. He was the only one to go negative, which is surprising for Hydra. He's usually the MVP of the team, but this proves that Subliner system is working out really, really well. If Hydra, the star of their team, is negative and they're still winning the series and the entire team is dominating, that means that this 25% thing is working out very well. The Embassy S&D wasn't even close. You had Skies and Priesta dropping a 2 KD. If the AR duo is dropping a 2 KD, just go ahead and back out. The Game 3 control was super close and went down to a round 5, and the Subliners were able to clutch up behind strong performances from who once again? Skies and Priesta. P-Dog and Skies. Skies invested in his game, he invested in Preston's game, and it showed today. Wow. Absolute smoke show. Afro was the only player on the Rokkr side who really did well, and Cammy as well. He was close to being even, but wasn't enough. The Subliners just ran away with this, and they never looked back. Wow. So that bodes very well for the Subliners going into tomorrow, and Rokkr do have a rebound game, so not really bad for them, but they definitely have some work to do tonight. And then in our next matchup, we had LA Guerillas taking on Decimate Gaming, and Decimate, did they win a map? I'm not sure if they won a map. Who did they play first? Minnesota, right? They got 3-0 by Minnesota, and then they got 3-0'd by Guerillas. Okay, so yeah, we're not going to go super far in depth. It was 250, 233 on Hotel. RCD's Neptune, Spart, and Hook got their get back, but Spart had a really rough series. This is, I mean, he's had quite a few rough respawns. I'm wondering if an LAG roster change comes in, possibly for someone like Assault. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. 2 real with a 0.5. Wow, that's rough. For a guy who was on the pro team last year, who was on Florida, who's really got a good chance of getting back in the league if he can play his cards right at the Pro-Am, that's tough. 1.3 from Ulysses, 1.3 from Hollow, and 1.3 from Mock. This should have been a Decimate Gaming win, but 2 real just had a rough series, and that's that. We're not going to go into the S&D because it was a 6-1. We know how that went. But the control was super, super close. RC's had to drop a 1.5 for them to win. Hook had a 1.18. Really good showing for him. Spart had a good turnaround, 1.09. And then everybody, with the exception of Mock, on the Decimate side went negative, so that's rough for them, and that's how they got bounced out of the tournament. They got sent home from the tournament with this loss. So they got 6-0'd, basically. They lost both their series, but they did play LA Guerillas and Minnesota Rokkr, two teams that looked very, very hot based on how they finished the week last week. And yeah, you know, well, Minnesota Rokkr ended on a loss, but still, I mean, they were the 1 seed for a reason, right? They're the 1 seed in the CDL right now, and yeah, we expect them to handle business against Decimate, and LAG did the same thing. So this is, I believe, the only bracket that went according to plan for me. In our next series, y'all see it. Okay, y'all see it. I mean, Scrappy is him. Scrappy is him. 1.56 against the King. And Optic is crazy. His first series 3-0. His first time playing Optic, he 3-0s them on the main stage. Well, it was on the side station, actually. But he was plus 20. This guy was shooting back for Optic. 1.85 from Standy and a 1.35 from Kleenex. The sub-duo went crazy map 1. Wow. Wow. Great performance from Standy. You guys know I said that this was a duo to watch, Scrappy and Standy. Standy, he stood out. I'll give him that. And Scrappy, he stood out also. S&D was heavily in favor of the Ultra. Scrappy dropped 13-6 for the W. Shotzi was the only player on Optic who really did okay with 8-5. But wow, 6-3 is very dominant. And then they got 3-0'd in the control. So clearly Optic was on full tilt. Shotzi was the only player who played well in the map 3. He went 28-18. But what this tells me is that he was really playing his own game and the team wasn't playing well. So, you know, you can't have yourself going plus 10 and you lose the map 3-0. That's just not good team play. Scrappy dropped a 2.17, 26-12. Standy went 18-16. Insight was getting touched and so was Kleenex, and they still won. This is what I'm saying about this Ultra team. I told you guys before, the mark of a great team in Call of Duty is a team that can be outslayed and still win a map or a series. And I thought LAG had that in droves, but they really don't. Ultra has that, so they might be the favorite to win this entire tournament just based on the fact that they weren't playing well. Insight had one of his worst series ever as a main AR, and Kleenex also had a rough series in the last map, and they were still able to win it with a 3-0. That's really, really, really encouraging for the Ultra. That definitely makes them favorites to win it all at this point. Now looking at our next series, we had the Boston Breach taking on the Las Vegas Legion, and this is an elimination match, so this was an interesting one. We had Beans subbing in for Wake, and Beans did really well picking up the pace, even though he was a last-minute substitute, considering the fact that Wake got sick. Everybody on the Paris side did their thing. Clay and TJ had the lowest KDs, but they still won, so it doesn't really matter. They clearly contributed where they needed to, and Nero was the only player on the Boston Breach to really have a standout series. So looking at the map 1, Breach absolutely stomped the Legion with a substitute, which is interesting. Nero dropped 34-13. Okay, well that's a difference maker there. That was his map. So Hotel was definitely in favor of the Breach. The Legion got back on Fortress. Temp dropped 10-3. Wow, great showing from Donnie Temp. Happy for him. And Nero had a rough map too, going 1-6, methods 2-6. Rough map for the Breach, but great map for the Legion. The Legion chained that momentum into a Hotel control, which they've been very comfortable on all season long, with strong performances from ProLoot and Temp. So great showing from those two. Obviously ProLoot's a sub, Temp is the flex, so that's really, really encouraging for them. And Clay didn't have a lot of interactions, neither did TJ, so this works out really well for the Legion. If they can really divvy up the engagements to the players who are getting hot, that bodes very, very well for them. And they just played good team COD based on these stats. Looking at it for the Breach, they just had a rough map 3. Map 4, they did win on Hydro. Everybody on the Legion side struggled a lot. ProLoot 15-28 is rough. Everybody on Breach went even or positive. Beans had a 1.09, great showing for him. Vivid with a 1.43, great showing for them, and they got smoked in game 5. TJ was 6-2. ProLoot was 11-2. I saw him calling a glide bomb, but he died in the glide bomb screen, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, wow, that was a smoke show in the map 5, and that's how the Las Vegas Legion made it through and sent the Boston Breach home. Looking at our third to last series of the day, I guess, we had the LA Thieves taking on Elevate, and I was expecting LA Thieves to be playing, who was it? Boston. I expected them to play Boston and beat Boston. I expected Thieves to walk away with the 1 seed, and they did, so that was great. They had a good showing in this series, even though no one on Thieves went positive outside of Envoy. They played together as a team, and their teamwork and synergy was just on point the whole series long. Great showing for the Thieves, and this definitely puts them in the top contender conversation for the rest of this event. Gizmo dropped a 1.2. He was having a great series. Harry had a great series. They were just everywhere on the map, super annoying, and they played really, really well. They definitely showed why they were pro players last year, and they did their thing. Looking at the map 1, it was super close, 250-232. It came down to the final hill, and the Thieves were just able to get the rotations, get the kills in rotation, and lock it down. I believe it was Diner. I think it was a dining room. But yeah, Thieves looked great on map 1, and Elevate kept up. They were really, really keeping up. Nobody had a really terrible series on the Elevate side. So it was a good showing for them. Definitely, they are still in the tournament because they were in the winner's side of qualifiers. They won their first match, obviously, against Boston Breach. And they were able to win the S&D as well. So that was a good showing for them. Their S&D has been absolutely phenomenal. That's their strong suit, clearly. And Harry and Vortex went absolutely nuts. Harry went 10-5. Vortex went 9-3. Great showing for them on map 2. The Thieves. Wow, Elevate went up 2-0 in the control, and then Kenny turned it around a lot. He was, I believe, 5-11 going into the round 3, and you see he finished 19-27, so he did pretty well for himself. That's basically, what, 16 and 16, I guess. Yeah, so that's pretty good. He went even to finish it out. Draza popped off towards the end. Envoy definitely popped off, and that's how they won the series. They just really turned it around. Harry had a great map, and so did Gizmo, and it just wasn't enough. So the Thieves, they definitely got the momentum back on their side with this 2-0 comeback that they made. It was absolutely incredible to watch. If you haven't seen that control, be sure to go back and watch it. You will definitely enjoy it. It was a masterclass. Let's just call it what it was. Thieves looked great in the control. Definitely a masterclass. And this is the mark of a good team once again. Thieves had 2 players that didn't necessarily do the greatest in the hard point, and they still won the map. No one really had a super standout performance apart from Kenny, who was just making a huge impact on the map the whole time. He made a lot of really consequential plays, and he helped them win that map pretty single-handedly, because Gizmo was a monster. He had a 1.6 in this map 4, and everybody else on his team was doing just fine, with the exception of Vortex. He had a rough map. But, you know, they stayed in it until the very last hill. And Elevate are definitely a team to watch out for going into today's matches. So be on the lookout for them. And then in our second to last matchup of the day, we had the second biggest upset of the day. Absolutely the biggest upset of the day at this point. A pro team got sent home by an amateur team. They got sent home by LAG Academy. And interestingly enough, we are having a dialogue. We are starting a dialogue about LAG Academy possibly being better than the pro team. Strange times we're living in, ladies and gentlemen. We're here again for the second time in 3 years. If I had a nickel for every time it happened, I would have 2 nickels. It's not a lot of money, but it's just weird that it happened twice, you know? So, looking at the series, we of course had very strong performances from Joe Deceives and Diamond Con to really try to topple this London team, which they did. And then Asim and Paul X just had not necessarily a rough series, but, you know, Zero and Nasty were doing all they could and just couldn't put it together in the 5 maps, excuse me. Wow, the S&Ds were not close at all. That's not a good look for London. They won the map 1, 250 to 192, behind strong performances from Zero and Nasty. And then on the side of LAG Academy, the only player who really did well was Diamond Con. In the map 2, everybody from LAG Academy did their part. Assault and Diamond Con, the AR duo they were having, and that's the difference, made the difference. London got smoked on this Asilo control. That's crazy to me. They've been a pretty decent control team, but Diamond Con dropped a 1.5 almost. Joe Steves had a 1.1, and Assault basically had a 1.1 as well. So Zero's 1.42 consequentially was not doing a whole lot. And that's why they got smoked on that map. I guess London was just not in form. I did see the hotel map 4. London looked great in the hotel. Great bounce back for them. Paul X was just deleting people, and Zero was doing what he needed to as well as the other AR on the team. Great showing for London. This is a great hardpoint performance for them, and they really dominated in the slang, so great performance for them. That actually bodes well, the fact they won 2 hardpoints going into the rest of the season. They are eliminated now, but at home they can definitely parse through the S&Ds, figure out what they did wrong, and the control as well. But LAG Academy is definitely a pro-level team, in my opinion, and in the opinions of pretty much everybody who watched today. Looking at the Game 5 S&D, was not close at all. Asim had a 1-7 performance. Nasty was the only player on London to even go positive. And then everybody on LAG Academy did their part. The teamwork was on point. Trades were on point. And yeah, I mean, El Asilo is clearly a map that they favor. Everybody on LAG Academy either went even or positive. Assault dropped to 6. Joe Deceives was 8-4, and Exceed had a 1.4. So there it is. There's the series. Great showing from the LAG Academy. They stay alive in the bracket, and they have a chance to qualify as the second team coming out of the bracket tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. Looking at our last match of the day, man, you know what time it is. ATL Faze, Faze up, baby. Pred was having bad, but unfortunately, Accuracy and Mac had a rough series, so that was the difference that made the difference here. Sib and Pred, the duo since last year, they did their thing. And everybody on Faze, apart from Slasher and Simp, wasn't really having the best series. Abizi, he started out the control 2-11. He finished 21-25. So he really turned things around towards the end, and he looked great. When he went down, he was able to bring himself back up. And that bodes very well for Faze going into the rest of the tournament. Map 1 was one of the greatest rebounds I have seen from a CDL team in a while. Faze went down, I believe, 130-60 after the first rotation, and they ended up winning the game 250-240. So you guys can do the math, but they outscored Surge anywhere in the 190-110 neighborhood, which is really good considering they're on the back foot. You can see Salium and Simp never really dug themselves out of the hole that they were in terms of their KD. They were just getting outslayed in the beginning. Sib, before they turned it around, he was 17-9. So he was absolutely having this entire map, and they were able to turn it around. So that's great for Faze. Their hard point has really been their weakest point of, I guess, it's been the point of emphasis thus far. So we'll say that. They were able to win this 250-240, and that was a really big momentum swing because Seattle came out really hot on the map 1, and I thought they were going to run away with it, but Faze really answered back, and it showed how much of a difference Slasher makes as a leader because they just cleaned things up, and they really rebounded very well in a way that they didn't with RCDs as their IGL. So, as you guys can see, definitely made a big difference. Having a different shot caller really can make a difference for some of these teams. It can be very transformative. In the Hotel S&D, Faze looked really good in this S&D. They looked very, very good in S&D in general today. They won all 3 of their S&Ds today, and they looked fantastic in all the S&Ds they played. Guerillas Academy is a great S&D team, so having a Neslo series against them, considering the fact that they 3-0'd London in the control, is definitely a good look for the Faze side. And they beat the Seattle Surge 6-3 on Hotel S&D. And then they followed that up going into control, Hotel Control, excuse me. Preb was the only player who did very well on the Surge. I thought he was going to single-handedly win the series the map for them. They went up 2-0. Pred was going absolutely nuts. And then Faze was able to recover behind strong performances from Slasher and Simp. Simp and Slasher were all over the place, getting really consequential kills and making a huge impact on the game. Excuse me. Looking at the map 3, we of course had Hotel Control, and Faze just dominated on the Hotel Control. It was a 3-1. They really turned things around. It looked like Seattle was potentially going to win this map as well. They started to run away with it early in the beginning, and Pred was just having bad. I'm talking about this guy was popping 2 pieces, 3 pieces. At one point, he almost wiped the entire team by himself. So this is a great showing for Pred. Seattle definitely has a lot of work to do. Accuracy dropped a 0.5. Mac had a 0.75 in this last map. And their control definitely needs some work. But on the Faze side, very encouraging. Simp had his best series that I've seen him play this year. He looks like he's returning to form in the right place, right? You want him to return to form on land so this team can hopefully chain that into a win, right? They haven't won since Cold War. So hopefully Faze does well for the rest of the weekend. And I hope that Seattle can rebound going into tomorrow because they are one of the more exciting teams to watch in this game. Now, we are finally done with all 16 of today's matches, and I can finally get into our schedule for today. So, let's go full screen with this. Kicking things off today on the Alpha stream, we have Optic Texas taking on their boogeyman, the Florida Mutineers, again. And I'm really curious to see how this goes because the Mutineers started to heat up against Foyodrome, and that's definitely scary for Optic, considering the fact they got 3-0'd by Toronto, and Toronto absolutely manhandled them in the maps 2 and 3. And then on Bravo, we have Minnesota Rokkr taking on LA Guerillas. LA Guerillas, They had some encouraging moments, but both teams played Decimate, so we don't really have a good idea of how strong either team looks, relatively speaking. Decimate was getting smoked. Two-Real was getting smoked the whole time, unfortunately. So not really too sure what to expect in that series. I'm favoring Minnesota just based on their strength of schedule and their performances thus far. But LAG has definitely been kicking things up heading into this major, so we'll see how that goes. I think Texas beats... Oh, I can't definitively say that, though. Florida took them to a Game 5, and they got 3-0'd by Ultra. Florida beat the amateur team. Poyodrome did look pretty good. They took Ultra to a Game 5. I want to go Florida Mutineers here, guys. I think I'm going to go with the Mutineers. I think the boogeyman comes to haunt Optic, and I think they were hiding under the bed this whole time. I'll go with the Florida Mutineers in Game 5. I'll say it. I'll go out on a limb. I think Florida Mutineers, they correct their wrongs. Optic will probably be better practice, but based on how they played today, the teamwork and the chemistry is just not there. It looks like they don't have enough reps. They don't have enough practice. So I'm going to go with Florida Mutineers. I think they get it done. Not sure how many matches it takes them to get it done, but I think they get it done. They're looking a lot better. If Major Maniac and Vehicle can just play a little bit better, if Vehicle can slow down a little bit, I think this Florida team can definitely make a decent run. And yeah, I think Florida walks away with it tomorrow. I think it's going to be really interesting. This is probably going to be the upset of the day. No, it's not. There's going to be some craziness tomorrow. Let's leave it at that. On our Charlie stream at the same time, we will have Elevate taking on the Las Vegas Legion. And I'm really not sure what to expect here. Elevate has been on an absolute tear. They almost beat the Thieves. They just ran out of gas. And the Vegas Legion, they almost beat the Thieves Game 5. So I'll go with Vegas Legion here with a definitive pick. I think Boston Breach, they should have handled business against Team Elevate. Elevate is definitely not a team to sleep on. But the Vegas Legion almost beating the LA Thieves when the LA Thieves performed so well against Team Elevate. Bodes very well for the Vegas Legion, so definitively I will say Legion wins tomorrow if I have to make a definitive call. I don't know map count, but I think Legion wins tomorrow based on how they perform against Thieves. And in our last match of the 4:30 slot, on the Delta stream, we have LAG Academy taking on the Seattle Surge. And this one comes down to the hard points. If LAG Academy can win the hard points, I definitely think that they can chain that into a lot of success in the S&Ds. That's definitely a game mode that Seattle has looked pretty weak on, and they could definitely chain that into a strong control performance because LAG Academy has looked pretty strong on control. So we'll see how it goes, but this is definitely a 50-50 series, and it has Upset City written all over it. I hope this ages well. I think LAG Academy are the one and only team to upset a pro team and make it through to the bracket. So I'll say LAG Academy win it tomorrow. I think it'll probably be a Game 5. And then that leaves us to just the Alpha and Bravo streams from here on out. So that would mean in my potential bracket, we have Minnesota Rokkr taking on the Toronto Ultra in our first match on the Alpha stream. That, of course, being a Battle of the North run-it-back moment. And honestly, I think Toronto Ultra keep it moving. I think they get the 3-1 victory. I think they are definitely a favorite to win this. So I'll say Toronto 3-1. But Minnesota could definitely get their get back if they really build a lot of momentum off of the LAG series and they correct a lot of the right things that they were doing wrong today. Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting series, but I definitely favor Ultra. I think they're just in a different league right now. So I'll say 3-1 in favor of the Ultra. And then that means in our next matchup, we would have Faze taking on the Vegas Legion. And they 3-0'd Vegas online, but Vegas on LAN is a different team. I still have Faze winning this series, but I'm not sure how it goes. Based on their hardpoint performance, I do think that Vegas likely take the map 1, Faze likely rebound in map 2, and then Faze probably win map 3 and 4. But Vegas is definitely a map 1 team. They get a lot of momentum in the early parts of the series. It just remains to be seen if they can keep it up in the latter half of the series. So that's why I think Faze definitely win this series, just because Vegas has had a lot of issues keeping their momentum in the tail end of the series. So I think with that in mind, it'll be a Faze W. And then in our last matches of the night, we have the LA Thieves taking on LAG Academy in my potential bracket. And then we have New York taking on the Florida Mutineers. And personally, I'm thinking LA Thieves walk away with the victory over LAG Academy. Thieves just look to be one of the top tier teams in this game. I think Toronto, LA Thieves, Faze, and New York will be our top 4 regardless. So I think LA Thieves get through. I think they have a pretty dominant performance against LAG Academy just based on how they played today. They played absolutely phenomenal. And they really clutched up when it mattered. Their teamwork looks to be unmatched by any team other than Toronto. So we'll see how that goes for the Thieves for the rest of the weekend, but I think they earn a really good spot. And then in our last matchup on the Bravo stream, we will have New York taking on the Florida Mutineers, possibly, or Optic Texas. That's a 50-50, but I think Mutineers make it through in a surprise. And I think that the Subliners have their work cut out for them no matter who they play tomorrow, but I think they will walk away with the series. They just look to be in the right frame of mind as a team. They're gelling at the right time. They went 6-0 today, and, you know, they had to play a really rough team in Minnesota. So, you know, anything's possible for this New York Subliners team, and I think they win tomorrow. So if you want a super quick recap, I'm thinking Florida, Minnesota, Vegas Legion, and LAG Academy in the upset. And then in our 6 p.m. slot, I'm thinking Faze and Toronto favorites win. And then in our 7:30 slot, I'm thinking favorites win again with LA Thieves and New York Subliners walking away with victories tomorrow. So yeah, guys, be sure to tune into all the COD action today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 Pacific Time, as you guys can see on the screen. Hope you guys enjoyed all the matches today. We had some absolute bangers. Hope you guys don't mind that I took a little bit longer with this video. I just had to get all the information out there. There was so much to work through, and I just wanted to make sure I got you guys all the information so you can be dangerous today when you're watching the matches. Hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night wherever you may be on this beautiful planet. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and share it with a friend, family member, or someone who you think will be interested in my content. And yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy all the COD today, and I will catch you guys possibly tomorrow with another update, but you might not see me again. So we'll see how things go, see if I'm busy or not. And yeah, I appreciate everybody who watches the videos. Thanks for all the love and support, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News, and I am signing off. Have a great morning, noon, or night wherever you may be on this beautiful planet, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace out.